Hello. So number one, I have to thank you all because you braved the storm. Go figure. I left Florida and it was raining when I left. And I said, oh, I'm going to go there. And I heard it's going to be sunshine. And I think recently you all had hot weather. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. I'm going to get there where it's going to be great. And I didn't even bring an umbrella. And we all know it's raining outside. But thank you for coming to just even hear my story and my career just going through Disney. So to start off, how many people in the room have ever been asked this question? What do you want to be when you grow up? I would hope that everybody in this room has been asked at least once, what do you want to be when you grow up? So, people ask, hey, what did you want to be when you grow up? I actually thought, well, one, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I knew I liked a lot of different things, wasn't quite sure, okay, what do I want to do? I think I wanted to be an astronaut at one point because that's what, all the cool people said. I wanted to be a fireman. I think at one point too, I wanted to be an actress, but then I realized, I learned later, you have to be able to act to be an actress. Crazy, right? So it's a big question that you have to ask yourself, okay, so what do you want to be when you grow up? So let me tell you about my story. Growing up, I was the type of kid that liked to take things apart. I'd take the remote control apart. My parents would get mad and say, why are the batteries outside of the remote control? And why is the keypad buttons, why are they outside the remote control? But I was always interested in how things worked. I wanted to know how they work and then how are they put together? So I'd take it apart. Some things I'd put back together, other things I did not put back together. And my mom really got mad about that. So I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and there weren't a lot of people that were engineers around me. So I didn't even know engineering existed. And actually, I didn't even see what an engineering program looked like until 2 years after I started at Purdue. So I actually started in liberal arts beforehand. So regardless, I went to a magnet school, which was big on science and technology, Hume Fogg magnet school. And I, going through the program, came up with this flawless plan. Do you see this? It says Angel Strategic No-Fail Career Plan. Because I heard as long as you come up with a plan, you can't fail. You got to have a plan. So I said, boom, I'm going to make a plan. So what did I do? I identified my skills and became aware of my values, researched a major at a college, pursued a degree, research the career options, okay? Align career options with a degree, obtain internship, boom, graduate, dream job. That's exactly how it's supposed to work, right? Right? Yep. It's a plan. Do you see that ladder? Do you see the stars and the sparkles? Yeah. It's supposed to work. Now, how many of you ever played the game Chutes and Ladders? All right. If you never played Chutes and Ladders, this is how it works. You get the dice, you roll the dice. You get to jump a few spots. If you get to the bottom of a ladder, you get to climb up to the next spot. If you go to the top of a slide, guess what happens? You get to slide all the way back down and it feels like you're starting over again, okay? This is more like the true reality of what my career path looked like. So you saw the one before, everything went straight up, it was perfect, flawless. This is the reality. So I'm going to go over a couple of my shoots. We'll talk about the illustration. So like I said before, I went to Purdue University. I did not start in engineering. I actually was in liberal arts. I went to my advisor one day and I said, I want to work in special effects. And guess what? My advisor had no clue what to do with me. They didn't know where to send me. There is no major for special effects. I didn't know that. He obviously did not know that. So he was like, yeah, you should try graphics design. I said, okay, if it gets me a special effects, let's do it. So then I started going to classes where you draw pictures and paint. And I came to a class which was just focused on illustrations, okay? And my favorite color is blue. So of course, my illustration absolutely had to be done in blue. So I did my illustration in blue, thought it was the best thing ever. And sure enough, showed it to the professor and the professor gave me a D on it. And I thought, whoa, something's wrong because this is amazing work, about like my ladder and my plan. This is amazing work. How on earth can I get a D? And my professor said, I hate the color blue. And I thought, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. So that same day, I marched, it was snowing, everything, and I went to the advisor for the engineering department, and I said, I need to get into something more technical. I need something that's either ones and zeros, right or wrong. I cannot do this feeling stuff anymore, because I could not comprehend somebody saying I didn't like it just because, and you get a D for it. So that's actually what truly started my engineering career as far as moving forward into it. So that was my first shoot. What makes it a shoot is I went from drawing pictures and painting things and talking about how I felt to doing calculating statics and dynamics problems. They're nothing alike, nothing. Nobody wanted to hear how I felt about it. They just wanted me to do the work. And it was a huge change in general, just to even try to adapt to that world. So that was my first shoot. So we talked about the illustration. Now, let me talk about driving in neutral. So fast forward, I graduate, mechanical engineering, loved it, did a college program internship, did a professional internship, actually got to work on the Yeti at in Animal Kingdom at Expedition Everest. And I went back to school, finished, got my degree, and I thought, okay, I'm set, I'm good, I got everything I needed, I'm getting ready to go to the next level. And then I get out of school when the economy went bad. So I came out when, there were things like layoffs going on, where people were losing their jobs who had 10 and 15 years experience. So now I'm competing, this one person who has 1 year experience in an internship with somebody who has 20 years from Lockheed Martin and NASA and all over in Florida. And I didn't know what to do with that. And I thought, gosh, this has to be a huge setback. Well, there happened to be a program called the Apprenticeship Program. And what that is it's a mechanical program, and usually people come out of there from high school and go directly into it because it's a technical field. And they teach you diesel mechanics school. You get your certifications, and I thought, well, this program is open, can't quite get a job right now. Let me go ahead and see if I can join this program. And it felt like something that I was working backwards. I will say it was a little rough. My parents, they were absolutely supportive of it. But the biggest thing is I knew that I needed to keep moving forward. And I liked the idea of learning the hands-on experience. So sure enough, I ended up going into Lights, Motors, Action. It's a special effects stunt show that used to be, it's no longer there at Hollywood Studios because of course we're going to get Pixar land, but used to be there. And I was the first female mechanic, first and only now, female mechanic at Lights, Motors, Action Stunt Show. So the car that you see in the far corner is one of the stunt cars. And me and another guy actually got to build a stunt car from scratch. So we put the brakes in, built a differential, put the engine in, and believe me, they didn't teach all of that at Purdue. So this truly was the hands-on experience of, okay, now how does every technical class that I've done before fit together? That's when I found out about tolerances. I remember sitting in design class and I thought, oh man, I made everything work out. This is great. Never mind the fact somebody has to actually put your hand in there. And somebody has to actually torque that bolt. And if we don't give them the right clearance to be able to do so, how are they ever going to maintain it? So while working there, yes, I was the one because I had the smaller hands who they would say, hey, Angel, can you go ahead and do this? Yep, I got you. I'll take care of it. So I worked at Lights, Motors, Action Stunt Show. And I thought, okay, wow. I realized at the time when it happened, thought it was the worst thing ever. But then as time went on, I learned very quickly that, sometimes you may not get to pick your setbacks, but they actually will push you forward. So now, I'm going to give you an idea of what other engineering roles are at Disney, because a lot of people aren't quite
Everything
sure.
I do makes magic. In design and engineering, we have a mission statement, and that's we make the magic work. And I really believe that I get the opportunity to do that every day in my job. Some of the work that I've done that I'm really proud of, one of the first things is the Bippity Boppity Boutique. I was doing the HVAC design, doing the work to calculate that volumetric flow rate. I have a lot of pride, especially because it's an ongoing experience that guests every day get to enjoy.
Everything I do helps protect our cast and guests. I have a counterpart in California, and she and I both work on standards for both food safety and cast safety.
Also, we do facility safety, where we go out and look and make sure there's no potential harms or hazards in the area.
Facility asset management, we're basically responsible for controlling scopes, budgets, schedule, and quality.
Everything I do creates memories. Within engineering services, I'm responsible for the maintenance of parking lot trams, the backlot trams, and the company fleet of vehicles. You know, it's very exciting to know that we have a very important role in getting our guests to the park and then bringing them back out to their vehicles at the end of the day. It's the first and last ride that our guests experience when they come to the parks.
Everything I do makes a difference.
The reason why I would do my role here at Walt Disney World is really the diversity of projects, the diversity of skills that I get to grow and develop in all the work that I do.
You're not sitting behind a desk like you would in most engineering firms. At Disney, we get to start from the conceptual phase all the way until it's been implemented.
The similarities in value between the Navy and Disney are the core values of honesty, integrity, and teamwork. Both operations share that.
I've just had the opportunity to work with some great people. We work as a team, and I think if you can find that someplace in your work career, that's pretty special.
Everything that I do has the ability to change lives.
It's one big family here at Disney.
What I enjoy about working with Disney is just the different opportunities, the challenges that we have, and the rewarding experience that at the end of the day you see the happiness on the guests' faces. It makes me feel really good about what I do.
All right, so I don't know if you noticed, but underneath my name it said I was in facility asset management. Well, right after I worked at Lights Motors Action, one of the leaders thought it was really commendable that somebody, with an engineering degree now is working as a mechanic for the Lights Motors Action show. And she approached me and she said, I think you would do a really good job in construction. And believe me, never had construction experience a day in my life. And I thought, are you sure? And she says, yes, I think you'll be great at it. So she actually plucked me from that team, and then I actually went to the construction world, and I loved it. Had no clue. So just know that no matter where you are in your career or in life or in school, somebody may suggest somebody that is for you, that is going to back you. They may say, you know what, you may be great at this. You got to give it a try. Because I never would have thought that, dealing with scope schedules and budget would be cool. I loved it. I mean, I worked with programs that were probably about $3 million worth, and I was in charge of hiring all the engineers and then hiring the contractors and writing contracts in general. And, granted, wasn't the expert at everything, but I had to learn a little bit about different engineering areas. So if anything, if you go into a STEM field or a technical field, just know that you learn how to learn quickly. Because you will always be challenged, because in the technology field, things are going to change, they're going to grow, they're going to get better every day. So you have to learn how to learn quick, and you have to learn how to teach yourself too. So we'll fast forward yet again, show you what I'm working on now.
Come, explore a place where you can fly on the back of a banshee. Walk under floating mountains and navigate a mystical river. Welcome to our world beyond belief. Pandora, the world of Avatar, only at the Walt Disney World Resort.
Look at that date, 5/27/17. That means we just opened up this year, which was a huge ordeal. And if you look at the pictures at the top, that's part of the construction team that worked on, and it's not even everybody, but it took a village to be able to create something that came from a movie that was 90% CGI, where people had to pretend what it looked like, pretend what it felt like. And then we had to actually make it a reality. So when you come out there, you feel like you've been transported to a moon, and that you're able to fly on a banshee, and you're able to go see the shaman, which is one of the most intricate animated figures that's out there right now. And of course, what does that take? It takes programs like STEM. So why is STEM so important? Science, you got to understand, what the plan is. You have to be able to make it work. You can never defy science or physics. The technology piece. Even though you might come up with a great idea, you got to figure out what technology is already out there that exists to make it work. You'd be surprised at how many different companies and areas that have already come up with, maybe the smallest sensor that we will go and utilize. And granted, we're using it for show, but then you'll also see hospitals may utilize it for something completely different. So it's knowing what technology is out there and what's changing. And of course, the engineering side is you're doing a lot of problem solving, and you're trying to make it safe too, because when you go to an amusement park, you want to be safe, right? right? Yeah, figure. All right, and then the math, it has to make sense. It has to make sense. The math will never go away. That is always a part of engineering. In general, it's always a part of technology and science. And now, the misnomer. We hear STEM all the time, but has anybody ever heard of STEAM at all? So why is STEAM so important? It's because of the art. The art is where the creativity and innovation comes in. Disney would not be Disney without the art piece. So we have an Imagineering side and we have an FOS side, a design and engineering, a huge engineering group. And WDI will come up with what it should look like and feel like and what you're supposed to see. And engineering will then come in and make it a reality. So to make it work and make sure that it's reliable and that it can work on a regular basis. So those two things have to come together, and that's how we're able to allow you to fly on a Banshee. And if you saw in the other picture, floating mountains, come on. How many times have any of us ever seen floating mountains before? And I mean, you can walk under them. And it takes that art and that engineering, the structural engineering side, to be able to put those two things together. So now I would say, rather than asking yourself, what do you want to be when you grow up? The biggest thing I can say for you is, how do you want to make an impact when you grow up? As you heard before, I had a professor, did not like the color blue. I got a D in that. That one point in time that I thought was the worst thing ever pushed me into going in something new, to the point where I'm then working on blue people. Is that not, think about how that all came together. And this is actually one of the figures. So they have an avatar maker where they scan your face and then they create, an action figure that you look just like the avatar. So biggest thing I want to say is, and Walt actually said it first, around here we don't look backwards for very long. We keep moving forward, opening up new doors and doing new things because we're curious. And curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. So if anything, just know that you may not be able to write your path, and you may not even be a straight path as you saw. It wasn't a straight path for me, but always be open to what new opportunities may come out of the path that you receive. Okay? Good deal. All right, so questions. I'm sure y'all have a lot of questions for me. All right, so if you didn't hear, the question is, when I got out of liberal arts, what kind of impact was that for me, making that transition? And I will say it was huge. When I went to talk to my advisor, and actually the new advisor, and I said I want to go into engineering, they said, nobody ever comes out of liberal arts and goes into engineering, right? And I said, okay, I want to do it. She said, okay, I'm going to give you a couple of classes. See how you do. See if you're okay with it. If you're fine, we'll keep this going. So sure enough, I took the two classes that she suggested, and it was Intro to Engineering, and then of course I had to go ahead and take my calculus class. And I did well in those two classes. And granted, it was a huge shock in general because I had to get used to, let's just say the social life changed completely. I didn't realize it before. I had a whole lot of free time before. And apparently I wasn't utilizing it the best. And then I go into engineering, and there was no such thing as free time. Because you're learning complex information. So now you got to sit there and make sure you are truly taking in the complex information, and that takes time. So I think the biggest hurdle for me was learning how to balance between the two worlds of, okay, do I really need to go out? Or should I focus on this physics test? So that probably was the hardest in general. Okay, so the question is, how well, or not so much how well, what is it like having to work together between two different entities? And I will say, in general, at Disney, and I'm sure most companies, you have a lot of different disciplines that have to work together to make something big. And you have your artist, and your artist may say, I want this to sparkle and smell like strawberries, and I want to go poof. And then that translates to an engineer, and it's, okay, so how long should it poof? Where are the sparkles coming from? Is this something that's programmed? Is there a screen? Is there a projection coming through? And it's every day, for the most part, that we all have to work together. So one of the biggest things that I learned very early on in my career in college and working at Disney is that the relationship skills are probably the biggest skill that you need to be able to develop. And that goes for most companies, because you're always going to have to work with somebody that is focused on something that's completely different than what you want to focus on. And you all have to be able to bring your information together to make something tangible at the end of the day. And so working together, it's always a thing that has to happen. Okay? All right, hopefully I don't hit you. There we go. Yes, give me. Did me going to, or because I went to a magnet school, did that help? Absolutely, because I will say I probably had more homework in magnet school than I did in college. And I was quite surprised that it slowed down somewhat when I went to college. So going through the magnet school program, though it was intense, it prepped me for college. And then the fact that I was already comfortable at that speed and comfortable with doing that type of work, that's why I believe I was able to transition from liberal arts into engineering, because there was 2 years that I just did liberal arts. And then all of a sudden I go into engineering and I was able to pick up the concepts quickly so that I can get through it. And let me say, I by far was not the perfect student. You saw that ladder, that plan I came up. Going through school, I was just like Chutes and Ladder. I thought, okay, yep, I have this figured out. This is great. I like PLC programming. I didn't really care for thermodynamics, but that's the thing. You find out the things that you are good at and that you like, but you still learn how to learn the hard stuff as well. But I do think magnet school helped out a lot. Yes, so the question is, did I work on any other projects besides Lights, Motors, Action, and Pandora? Beforehand, when I worked in construction project management, I worked in the resort side. So at Port Orleans Resort, Riverside Resort at the time has never been rehabbed in 20 years. And then I came in and we had to do a full rehab, and we actually had to stay open while also doing a rehab. So you can almost imagine what that what it looks like in general, to still have people come in and you still had to bring up and put down new tile and new paint. And I mean, it was a full-on rehab, new podiums, everything across the board. And that was probably one of my biggest resort style project. I also have done some pool BGM projects. If you've been, how many people have been to Disney? Out of curiosity. Oh, I love y'all. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so that means you should be aware of the magic bands. I had to do some of the infrastructure so that you can actually put the magic bands in place, and that was kind of cool. But if anything, notice that at Disney, I had the opportunity to go to different places and try new things, and you know, they give you the chance to learn new things and learn new skills, and you're always reinventing yourself because, of course, things change every day. People's taste, like Lights, Motors, Action's gone now. It's now Pixar land. So people's taste, they change every day. So a lot of the question is, what type of degree would be good for this career choice? It's interesting, depending on what you want to do, there's a degree for all of it. So let's say the shaman, for example. I don't know if everybody has seen what that looks like, but if you get a chance, Google Walt Disney World shaman. But the animatronic that I brought up before, she has 41 motors in her face, for example, which is a huge deal. And it takes, controls programming. So if you like the programming side of things and you still want to be a part of the magic, that's something you can do. We actually have some show engineers who put together, what the projections and the laser shows that you see out there. If you like the mechanical side, how things move, we have ride vehicles all over that show, that you technically would work on in mechanical engineering. If you like programming and you want to do simulations, so a lot of these attractions, before we build them now, we want to see what it looks like. And we also want to make sure that we can get the right throughput that we need. So you will have a team of people put together a simulation, exactly what the attraction will look like and how it will move. And then that's when executives will go back and then look and say, okay, I approve, I think this is good, and this is actually what I'm looking for. So those are some of your programming engineers. And one of my great friends that ended up being my mentor, he started off in mechanical engineering, and then he did show programming, and he did simulations. Now he's working on animation. Granted, it's not his background, but he went and he taught himself the programs to do the type of work, which is the main thing. You're going to go into engineering fields. You're learning how to learn complex information. Once you learn that, you can then teach yourself the other things out there. So like I said, he went and he was a mechanical engineer, but now he's actually doing programming. And the figureheads that you see that are out there in the parks, I don't know if you've noticed that Mickey now moves his mouth and he blinks. And he actually works on those. So a lot of figureheads that you see are moving, that's what he does now. It's a good question. My favorite Walt Disney World ride, this is a trick question. So in all honesty, I would say Flights of Passage is probably one of the best rides I've ever been on, because I'm not really big into heights, but I like thrill rides. And the fact that how, the Imagineers and engineers that worked on the project for the design development were able to put something together that makes you actually feel like you're riding on a banshee. And if you haven't seen the movie, the banshee kind of looks like a dragon for the most part, but you feel like you're on the banshee. You can feel the banshee breathing. You can, when you're going through the water, water hits your face. In certain areas, you can smell the forest. But that right there, you can't mimic that. It really takes you out of your current world to another place, which I think is amazing. All right, so question is, how did I find the program after I got out of school before I got the job? Career fairs that you see similar to like this event here, there happened to be one for college program, and that happened in my junior year in college. And I went to, I'm gonna take this back here and talk. I went to the career fair, and it wasn't really a career fair, it was college program, and they asked for people to come out and you would work in the parks. So college program, for the most part, you work either in parks or resorts overall. So not necessarily working in a technical field. And I did the college program, and through the college program, I was able to network. And that's when I got my professional internship, which happened to be in attraction engineering services, which was kind of like a safety group at the time. So through going through that program, I decided, and I will say, my advisor in engineering, and she stuck with me, she's the one that let me, come into the program. She says, I don't know, you're gonna go out there, they're gonna make you serve popcorn. I said, I know, but I feel like I need to do something different. I wanna do something different. So I went anyways, and I ended up being out of school for a year, living in Florida, and it was probably one of the best things I could have ever done because it got me the experience to get into the program. So if anything, the biggest thing I can say, especially if you're in school now, is internships, internships, internships. It's the best thing you can do for yourself. Please, please, please do not graduate college before getting an internship, because most companies want to know that you have experience and you can work in corporate America. And I mean, it's a truly competitive field out there now. And typically, companies will hire from within, from their internships. That's kind of like where they get to test drive the car type of thing. So you got to make sure that you have that on your resume, because typically most companies aren't going to hire you directly if you haven't had any work experience, especially in corporate America. They want to know simple stuff. If you you're sending an email out on Outlook, do you know how to do that? Do you know how to CC somebody? I mean, we think it might be simple, those of us laughing, but it's interesting when you have people come out, they don't know how to use Outlook. They don't know how to send an email properly. And a lot of companies don't want to spend the time to teach that stuff. But when you're in an internship, you're expected to learn. So you're expected to make a lot more mistakes during that time because you get to be taught how to do that. Favorite Disney theme park? That's a good one. I'd have to say, even though I'm in Animal Kingdom right now, I'd probably say Epcot because it's the learning park. That and the fact that Epcot was built in '82, and that's also the year I was born. So for whatever reason, I have a connection in my mind that me and Epcot, we're there. We're like together. So the professional internship, the question is, are there internships for engineers at Disney? Yes. College program is primarily parks and resorts, those type of roles, operation type roles. But there is professional internship. So all the groups that you saw on the video beforehand, all of those groups have professional internships. Like, for example, in design and engineering alone, which has your civil engineers, your mechanical engineers, your ride mechanical, your HVAC facilities mechanical engineers, your electrical engineers, you even have environmental engineers as well. They're part of design and engineering. We have 80 students in this term because we have 3 terms that you can go in. So it's a fall, spring, and a summer term. If you're looking to apply to a professional internship, the biggest thing I would suggest is you got to look at it 4 months, 5 months ahead, because we typically will pick students way in advance. So for example, if you're looking at spring, we're probably already deciding in January who we're going to have come in. Okay? And that's a time too to clean up your resume. Make sure, the biggest thing is you apply for a Disney internship, you got to put your GPA on that resume, okay? Because if not, your GPA will get kicked out. And you have to have a 3.0 or above. But the big thing is, even if you have a 3.0, make sure it's on the resume, because you want to make sure that you get to the next cycle so that people actually get to see your resume. So then also, let's say you don't have a 3.0, okay? Say you have a 2.8, and you say, I still want to get my foot in the door. That's what college program. You can have that opportunity. They have a lot of different avenues to get in. So go through the college program, get your foot in the door. They actually have an engineering class that you can take in the college program where you get to network with other engineers. And then that's how you take it to the next level. The networking is probably the biggest thing that you can possibly do. You meet people, you talk to people, you make sure they can remember your face and your name, you make that connection, and then you have your foot in the door so that you can, come back. No, so professional internship is junior and senior year only. So freshman and sophomore, you can't apply. You can, it just won't go anywhere. But, sorry, I'm not trying to stop you, but if you just feel like I must send this to them, they must see it, that's great. You might not get a response, or you get that really quick response where you're like, no way somebody read this, there can't be. But junior and senior years typically, because at that stage in your college career, that's when you're taking the fundamental classes that you need to practice once you go to an internship. So like I said, apply early, apply often. If you don't get accepted the first time, keep applying. Eventually something will stick, but if anything, just keep trying. If that is truly your dream and your goal, keep trying. To work on a lot of the attraction side in the amusement parks, a lot of it is centralized to the location. So of course, we have parks in California, you got parks in Shanghai, you got parks in Paris, you got, of course, in Orlando, Florida. And you usually, because a lot of times we have to help other parks and other locations too, as well, even in Central Florida. But it is one of those things that you have to be somewhat local because they want to be able to access you whenever they need you. And that's sort of part of it, though. But that's awesome that you says, wait, quick question. Does everybody even know what industrial engineering is? So yes, industrial engineering in general is big on throughput, efficiency. And efficiency is just how can we make it work quicker and faster and better. And for Disney parks, for example, one of the coolest stories I ever heard with industrial engineers they do, if you go in there, the trash cans are strategically placed throughout the park. And actually somebody sat there and did a study to find out at what point, how many steps will a person take from this location before they throw their trash on the ground? And that's where they put a trash can. So industrial engineers help with that. Also, when you're going through the lines, and granted, you go to lines and you say, wow, this ride is 3 hours long. There's no way I'm going to be able to wait in this line. Well, in some cases, it could have been 4 hours long, or in other cases, it could have been different. So IEs will come together and do a study and do an evaluation just to make sure they get the proper throughput so that they know that I can get probably 2,000 people on this ride in an hour based on everything working efficiently. So that's why it's unbelievably important, especially in our business, because Walt Disney is continuously growing. So industrial engineering allows us to continue to grow, but also make it efficient so that you enjoy it to the best of your abilities as well. So awesome that you did industrial engineering. That is really cool. All right, so women in engineering and STEM in general, what is that challenge like, especially when you typically will not see a lot of women in this type of field? So if you saw before, I'm currently in engineering services. In engineering services, we're in charge of maintaining the attraction. So WDI they built the ride. We're part of the development process, or the building process and construction side. They leave. Somebody has to be there to maintain it, to do the preventative maintenance, to make sure that it stays impeccable so that it looks the same way it was since day one. And that's the side that I work on. Well, to kind of paint the picture of what my work world looks like, there's roughly about 33 cast members that work under me, okay? One is female, the rest are males, all right? My peers, the other service managers, are males. The leaders I report to, they're males, okay? I'm the only one in my area that looks like me. So you can almost imagine what it was for those individuals that I work with. I work with some guys who say, I remember Walt. And they, right. So, and I actually work with a few guys, and I even had one guy come and tell me, says, I never worked for somebody like you before. And I said, okay. I said, maybe we should talk about it then. Why is that in it? Let's talk about it. Let's not make it an issue. And it's interesting just from having like a little bit of dialogue with him. is he found out that he just had a fear. He had a fear that a lot of people just come in, you know, they get out of school, they just tell them what to do, hit them with all the stuff they learn in school, and then they leave and they go do something else. And I said, well, you know, that's not why I came here. I said, I actually wanted to try to make a difference because I realized in engineering services, it needed a little bit of a change. And I was okay with being that change because my entire career in school, I was used to being the only one that looked like me in a scenario. I told some of the young ladies this morning, even when I started off in engineering classes, I would sit somewhere like in a desk like this, and then all the other guys in the class would probably sit on that row back there and then around. And I never understood why. And then I get to my final year, and I asked one of the guys, I said, why did anybody ever sit next to me? I don't understand it. He said, oh, we were scared of you. I said, what? You were scared you were a girl. And I thought, oh, wow, we're not in kindergarten anymore. And he actually said, we just weren't comfortable being around you. So, we're not around a lot of girls, so we just didn't want to sit by you. And I thought, that is so interesting. If only I knew that then. I took it personal, of course, and everything else. But then I started to embrace the fact of being different. And the biggest thing is, just think of it as you're the star of your own show. And you are there to shine, and you're being that trailblazer for that next person behind you. So maybe that there's 2 females or 2 people that look like you or think like you who are going to come up behind you. And it's okay to be different. Absolutely. So hopefully I answered that question in a roundabout way. When you go to school, do they expect you to have everything together? You know everything, you are ready to get everything going. And same thing for career. So for school, everybody, for the most part, expects you to be the A student. You're supposed to go in with a mindset, I need to be the A student. And like I said before, I was not always that person who went straight to a class that was completely complex and was able to make the A. Sometimes, I had friends who could study the night before and never opened a book a day before, and then they get an A. And I thought, I want to be like them. Let me try that. And then I go and try that, and I'm like, ooh, that is not an A. So maybe I just should study an hour more than that. And then I tried that, and I did not get that A. And I thought, okay, that's not my learning style. So I had to learn very quickly on how to learn. And some of those subjects that were truly the complex subjects, the best thing I could have ever done for myself is make a connection with that professor. Because people don't go into education unless they want you to succeed. So just know that professor is there because they want you to succeed, but if they don't know who you are, they can't be your cheerleader. They can't be a fan of you. So you got to make that connection with that professor that you're struggling with in class. And I'll tell you, mine was thermodynamics. I did not like thermodynamics. I appreciate AC, and I think it feels great in heat. It's wonderful. It just did not click with me. I wanted to work on robotics and everything else. I love AC, but see, and you said you did. I love it, but I just don't want to calculate it. So, and it's okay. So I struggle with that because I just wasn't passionate about it. So the learning environment was a little bit different. Fast forward into your career. If you have an internship, you're expected to make some mistakes. You're supposed to get a mentor. They're supposed to guide you. That's why internships are unbelievably important. I even said it before. So actually say it with me. Say internships. Internship. Love it. See, that's how important. We all sung that together. That's wonderful. So internships are unbelievable because you get the opportunity to somewhat make mistakes and to learn what works and what doesn't work. And when you get into your career, that's when you have to be a little bit more limited on how many mistakes you make. Because at that point, you are in your career. Doesn't mean that you have to have absolutely everything together, but you got to be able to seek out those mentors and find your core people that are in your career and find them quickly. Find the people who are for you, who want to see you succeed, and that you can bounce ideas off of. So a lot of times, don't expect that somebody's going to give you a mentor. You need to look for a mentor, and you need to keep those people close. Keep them close throughout your entire career because they're going to be the ones that are going to push you forward when you have those hard days in general. Okay? What are certain things that we don't want to ruin the magic? People come to Disney to be immersed in a world of misbelief or disbelief. You come to a world where you can actually be a princess. And it is okay. And nobody will judge you. And we are absolutely, we have princesses of all ages that come to the park. And then you come there sometimes, and I will say, even to this point, I've been working at Disney, I will be serious and I'm telling somebody to do something. If Mickey walks by me, I turn into a little kid. I turn into a little kid and I want to go and hug. And it's the weirdest thing, but that's why you do it. Even though I know a lot of how things work, it's just, we want to make sure that when you come to the parks that you truly can be submerged in this world that's outside of you, because who knows what you're going through in your own personal life and in general. So you need a place to escape to, and that's really what Walt Disney World is about. So why did I get my master's? Is because everyone that's sitting in this room right now, I actually used to go to, which basically is because it's the future. I used to go to career fairs. And there was a certain time I went to a career fair and everybody in line had a PhD and a master's. And I thought, oh, is this the thing now? And I heard constantly by 2020, bachelor's degree, they're going to be like, high school degrees, and, it's going to be the norm. So if you want to keep your edge, you need to have a master's degree. So that's when I had to, step back a little bit, because you can only imagine the demand of work all the time. And I went to my master's program in engineering management, UCF. And yes, it was a balance of work, and I have a young son at the same time, so helping him go through life as well. And then also having to go through school and lots of online meetings, lots and lots and lots of online meetings. So it took a lot, but I will tell you it's absolutely worth it, because the best thing about going through a master's program while you're working is you get to practice it the next day. So whereas in college, I had to pretend I knew what organization leadership skills were at the time. I had to say, this is what I read in a book. I think I'll do this 10 years from now. Probably never used it. Whereas I would learn, the proper way to, do problem solving. And then I would go to work and then practice it and thought, wow, this really worked out for me. Okay, I like this. I'm going to keep this tool as I go along. So the other advice I would give is, if you're going to go through a master's program, in all honesty, work a little bit first. Get that experience so that you can really retain it, and then you keep the tools that you connect with, that you see that works in your toolbox to move forward. Did they pay for my master's program? Yes, because I'm still paying for Purdue. Talk about that, right? Yeah, I'm out of school. I've been out for a very long time, and my master's program is already paid for. That's the other thing too. A lot of companies will pay for you to go to school because they're making an investment in you, because you'll take that information that you learn and you'll put it back in the company. So they'll benefit off of it. So a lot of companies absolutely will take care of to further your education. So you don't have to force everything in right now. If you're in college and you're undergrad right now, give it some time and have the company pay for it. Oh, it was amazing. I couldn't believe it. When I got that paid in full, I was like, that's nice. I wish I could do that at Purdue. Okay. I will say, so the question is regarding the new age where you constantly see somebody texting and looking down, and eye contact is not a big thing, and then you'll send a text message versus go walk over to say something to somebody. And we're in like a weird stage right now in general, because you have millennials mixed in with the baby boomers. And the baby boomers, and I will say some of the people I work with, they barely can send an email half the time, and they want to have a face-to-face conversation. And you can send a text message all you want, they're not going to respond to you. And a lot of the people who have been in the company for years and years and years, they're big on FaceTime. And most of the executives that I meet, they're big on FaceTime. They want to be able to make that connection and know who you are and what you have to say. So it will have to be a balance. Even though, granted, it seems like we're moving in that direction, I think some of the most successful people growing up in the industry now will be the ones that can actually have a conversation, who can, have that type of relationship where you're not texting the whole time in the middle of having a conversation, or every time you interact with somebody, it's by email only, and you're like 2 cubicles down from somebody. So just know that the relationship skills are still valued. It's heavy. I mean, in Disney alone, some of the most successful people aren't the smartest persons in the room. Granted, they're smart, but they're the ones who are able to carry on a conversation, able to influence people positively. And the only way you can do that is eye contact and connecting with people. Awesome. So question is on networking. What are things that I wish I knew beforehand? And what are things or tools that I've learned and I've moved on forward with? Has anybody ever heard of elevator speech before? Okay, that is huge. That is huge, because we're in a busy time in general, and you got to be able to make a point with somebody, and you got to do it in 5 minutes or less. So an elevator speech is, if let's say you're networking and you want somebody to know who you are, you got to know really quickly, and probably even 3 minutes or less, what would you say about you to make sure that somebody remembers you? And the best thing I will say is learn and practice what your elevator speech is for yourself, because at the end of the day, you are your own brand. Just like Walt Disney World is a brand and DuPage is a brand, you are your own brand. So what is your caption? What's your headline going to say about you? So that when you meet a person that you want them to remember you, you're able to say, oh, I am such and such and such and such, and I've done this and this and this, and I want to do this. That's the stuff that you really need to get used to doing. And even to this day, I still have to have an elevator speech just in general, because you meet new people all the time. And sometimes you get, you meet somebody that you never thought you'd meet, and they'll ask you a question and you don't want to go, well, so see, what happened was, I think, time. They'll walk off. They'll say, okay, I don't have time for this. So you got to know what that looks like. And it's okay, practice in the mirror, practice with your friends, practice with your parents, but you got to practice what your elevator speech is. That's probably the biggest thing I will say to carry on in the future. And the other thing, as far as networking, remember people's names. I wasn't good at that when I first started my internship. Thank goodness Disney is big on name tags and on first name basis. But my problem was, if they didn't have the name tag on, sometimes I'd lose it. And I'm like, oh, hi, hey. and you can't always rely on that. And I will say, one of the skills I had to force myself into learning is to not rely so heavily on somebody wearing a name tag all the time, because I would panic. I'd look down, I'd say, oh my gosh, they don't have a name tag on. I don't know who I'm talking to. And it's something that if you're truly going to make a connection and network with a person that may take you to the next level, you should know their name and know it the right way and how to pronounce it the right way too. That's also important. Typical work day for me is everything is unpredictable. I come in, I have a plan, I think I'm going to do this, this, and this today. It's kind of like that plan y'all saw. And then it turns into this, and then I get out and I'm like, whew, okay, I'll go back tomorrow and do that again. But a typical day is, because I work in parks, is it's really unplanned. It's me trying to, one, provide motivation and influence to the cast members that are working on the attraction, making sure that I'm communicating really well with the operations team so that they know what's going on if something isn't going the way they expected, making sure that any, plans for the future, I'm able to work on that. And then also making sure that I answer emails from directors and people who want to know something right now, right here. So my typical day, really, there's nothing typical about it, even to this day. I go in and I just try to make my department as best as I can possibly make it and set it forward to success, and then go home and I go back and try it all over again. Do I ever get tired going to the Disney parks? I do not get tired going to the Disney parks. However, I will say I get tired of standing in a line for a really long time and it's hot. That isn't fun for me at all. And I'm sure a lot of people as well, especially when I know I can go back later or a different day. And I mean, it's sad, but my son, so for a while there's Mickey's Not So Scary, and that's at Magic Kingdom. And I would take my son to Mickey's Not So Scary, and of course it's seasonal, it's a Halloween type thing, and you can go trick-or-treating, and it's a special event. Well, I would only take him to Magic Kingdom during that time because I didn't really want to be bothered with the crowds. And then one day he saw on TV, and we went to Magic Kingdom during the daytime, and he says, I didn't even know they were open during the daytime because you only take me. I felt ashamed. I couldn't believe that. But yes, my kid for a while thought Magic Kingdom was only open at night for events because I like the simplicity of things. So project management. When I was in facility asset management, that group is primarily project management for the most part, and which is a big deal in general, because you get a scope and you get a budget and you have a client and you are supposed to make whatever they want happen within the scope, within your budget, and you got a certain timeline that you have to actually finish that in. And that was the group I told you before I loved going into, because I liked being in charge of the project management. I like having the control over the financial aspects of it and hiring the contractors and hiring the engineers. And granted, I'm not too familiar with civil engineering and I wasn't too familiar with electrical engineering, but you end up having to learn those disciplines because you're hiring them and they owe you a product and you got to make sure that it fits whatever that client wants at the end of the day. So the project management side, everything that you see in Walt Disney World in general is probably a small microcosm of a project that somebody had to work on, because the facility asset management group is a huge group. I mean, there's many people that work on that. Some people are just dedicated to Magic Kingdom, some are dedicated to Animal Kingdom, some just do animal exhibits at Animal Kingdom, some do the big new projects like Star Wars and like Pandora, for example, from WDI side. So just know that project management is huge in general.
Great. Let's thank our speaker for this evening.
Thank you.